Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll get going in about 30 seconds. We're just making sure that we've got all of our IT working properly. Okay, I see the hour is now 7 o'clock, so we'll get started with our meeting. And I just want to welcome everybody, both here on the call tonight, staff and council, and those that are watching at home. So welcome to the last regularly scheduled council meeting for 2020. It has been quite a year, and while I say regular scheduled, I want council to know that barring any I never say never, but barring any very unforeseen circumstances, we'll do our best not to call any special council meetings between now and our next regular council meeting to give you all a well-deserved rest. I also wanted to talk about another milestone tonight. It is now our halfway point through this term. It was 2 years ago last week on December the 5th that we all took our oath of office. If we only knew just what we were in for. But regardless of the pandemic, we have achieved so much. And if council would indulge me, I just want to take a moment to share just a few of the highlights that come to mind. And I'm sure you'll have some that stick in your mind as well. First of all, regarding COVID, we were the first municipality in Simcoe County to hold virtual council meetings. Our Beaches in Motion, which we invented as a way to solve some of our overcrowded parks and beaches, was replicated by municipalities all over the province. Our Helping Hands that supported our community with micro grants funded from your own pockets. The $20,000 donation to the food bank in our hour of need. The transit program that got residents to essential locations like pharmacies and grocery stores. And there was so much more. The creation of the Innisfil Community Foundation, which we will hear more about this evening. The opening of the Rizzardo Health and Wellness Center that saw several new services brought to our community, including family docs, a walk-in clinic, laboratory testing, and more. Adoption of the Orbit vision and approval of the Center of Mass design concept. Major infrastructure expansions and approval of things like getting water and wastewater to the 400 at being paid for by developers, which of course, Councillor Van Berkel will know has been something that's been on our agenda since the early 90s. Other small infrastructure projects, things on the go like the 9th line, which unfortunately isn't starting till this spring, and Selby, which again have been calls from the community for years and years. The launch of the Joint Fire Services exploration with the town of Bradford West-Gwillimbury. The approval of the new Community Strategic Plan, Innisfil, Innovative Innisfil 2030. The first 2-year service-based budget, helping the public better understand where their hard-earned tax dollars go. The Lefroy Urbanization Plan, with the drainage and stormwater management included. The launch of the accelerator space in our Ryerson DMZ partnership, making us one of a handful in the world to offer this leading support to startups. The Innisfil Fair Transit Plan, which offers support to those in needs. Major roadworks like Lockhart and our very first roundabout on the 6th line. Finally, South Innisfil Creek Drain is ready to go after so many years. The approval of the new town square, the Innisfil Beach Park Master Plan, the Our Shores program for our one window approach for our shoreline. Approval of the donation of land for the passive affordable housing complex in our community. The approval of Tollendale for our seniors residents, providing more seniors housing. and creating the Innisfil Beach Park Ad Hoc Committee to talk about Innisfil's concerns that we heard during the last election, and also the continuing evolution of our School Zone and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and becoming the first municipality in Canada to accept Bitcoin. Now, I'm sure I have forgotten many, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a reason we're all tired and need a break. It's been a very busy 2 years. So with that, I will open the meeting and thank everybody for joining us here this evening. Please ensure that your microphone is muted when you're not speaking and that your phones are on silent or vibrate. Public comments made during this meeting are both audio and video recorded and shall form part of the record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about the collection, please contact our clerk's services. So we'll start with open forum, but I believe, Madam Deputy Clerk, there were no submissions for open forum, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we had no requests this evening.
Thank you. So we'll go right to the approval of the agenda. We did have one late report come in, item C7, that was added late. So if I could ask for a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda with the recommendation that's on the screen. Moved by Councillor Arsati and seconded by Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Any disclosures of interest that has come to anyone's attention? Seeing none, if it does draw your attention, if one does come to you, please let us know at that time. Item 5 is presentations and petitions. And we're very excited this evening to have the Innisfil Community Foundation Board of Directors with us. So I would ask at this time that they, if they wish, turn on their camera and turn on their speaker. And we'd love to welcome you here. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. Whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor Davidson, Council, and town staff. It is our pleasure to be here tonight to share an update on the incredible impact that the Innisfil Community Foundation has had on our community. An impact made possible thanks to the support and generosity of the Innisfil Town Council and our partners at the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. I'm Sandra Rizzarda, Chair of the Board of Directors, and with me tonight is Vice Chair Howard Courtney, President Ann Kell, and Treasurer Ann Smith. Next slide, please. This image is from 9 months ago, the last time we presented before Council, and it feels like a lifetime ago. This was back on March the 11th, when we presented our plans to launch the foundation with the Dragon's Den style competition that was to take place in June. It was also the same date that the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. We understood very quickly that the plans we presented would have to be set aside. We knew that Innisfil Community Foundation would have a much larger role to play in helping our community in this time of need and uncertainty. As the Board of Directors, we are proud of the many ways in which the Innisfil Community Foundation has supported our community's response and recovery so far. We look forward to introducing new grants and opportunities to continue supporting our community throughout the immediate and long-term impacts of the pandemic. Tonight, we will share some of the highlights from this year, actions that were made possible thanks to the support of the generosity of Council and OLG. Next slide, please.
Like so many organizations this year, we learned to pivot pretty quickly. On March 13th, which if you remember, we actually did the presentation on March 11th, we created a COVID-19 emergency response fund on the online fundraising platform Canada Helps. Because we were among the first Canadian charities to establish an emergency COVID fund, we were included as part of the Canada Helps and Gore Mutual Foundation matching gift campaign, which helped us bring in additional funds we wouldn't otherwise have had access to. To date, we have raised over $6,500 through online fundraising. The board met virtually for the first time the very next week, and we asked ourselves how we could best support the community. We decided to release up to $50,000 in COVID-19 relief grants to help fill the immediate needs of the charities supporting our community. It took 3 weeks to put systems in place that we expected to spend the next 3 months doing. And on April 22nd, we opened applications for COVID-19 relief grants. By May 26, we had granted $54,575 to 12 charities in our community. The need was so great that we decided to top up our limit with funds raised online. May 26 was also a significant day for us because it marks the day that we utilized our membership in the Community Foundations of Canada to join over 170 community foundations from coast to coast in the Emergency Community Support Fund, a rapid response fund initiated by the Government of Canada to support vulnerable populations impacted by COVID-19. By August 11th, we used this funding to inject an additional $75,000, supporting 5 local charities with significant projects. On October the 5th, we signed on to participate in round 2 of the Emergency Community Support Fund. On October 21st, we held a virtual information sharing event to bring the charities we supported to date to learn what each other are doing and to find opportunities to collaborate. On November the 13th, we informed 5 more charities that they have been awarded grants, and we are currently in the process of transferring an additional $50,000 to those charities. Since March, we have had 20 online meetings and made 22 grants to organizations supporting Innisfil residents to the total of $179,575. Next slide, please.
Now, our board members are so proud and humbled to be able to support the community in such a big way in our first year of operation. We couldn't have done this without the council and the support of the current council and previous councils, their foresight in putting together this foundation. All of the work that went into developing the Innisfil Community Foundation over the past several years meant that we were here to support our community in ways that no one saw coming as COVID-19 moved in upon us. Let's take a look at some of the other grants made this year, starting with some of the life-saving equipment that we helped to purchase. The photos on the left and in the center of the screen are a powered air purifying respirator that we funded for Stevenson Memorial Hospital. The respirator helps to protect Stevenson's doctors and nurses from contaminated air in the operating room and in the emergency department. With close to 3,000 Innisfil residents visiting Stevenson Memorial Hospital every year, it's important that these healthcare heroes are protected so that they can help patients in their time of need. On the right, you will see some of the RVH staff expressing their gratitude for the funding we provided them towards a ventilator for the intensive care unit. As the largest hospital in our area, we needed to make sure that RVH is well equipped to save lives of Innisfil residents who might become infected with COVID-19. Let me ask Anne just to take the next slide, please.
Next slide, please. Next, we'll turn to some initiatives that assisted with safe socialization and support. On the top left, you'll see a series of tables set up outside of Innisfil Community Church. This project brought the community together safely to help reestablish connections lost through the pandemic and to provide a safe outdoor space for support groups to meet. The community church allowed communities and groups within Innisfil to meet in a socially distanced, safe environment, and it was wonderful for many groups that could not meet in person indoors. Although the tables are packed away for the winter, we know our community will be eager to get together as soon as the weather allows to get us outside, and we'll look forward to utilizing this space again in the spring. The photo on the top right shows Innisfil resident Jason, who regained his independence thanks to this mobility device purchased by Independent Living Services of Simcoe County. When Independent Living Services face funding cuts and lower than anticipated fundraising, we stepped in with a grant to help make sure that their clients like Jason wouldn't become further isolated due to the pandemic. At the bottom, you'll see a screenshot from a Gilders Club Zoom call in which certified child life specialist Jocelyn is meeting online to help train therapy dogs. This and many other virtual connections at Gilders Club was made possible through equipment purchase with Innisfil Community Foundation funding. Next slide, please, and I'll pass it over to Howard again.
Thank you, Anne. Helping youth through this pandemic was also a big priority throughout our funding decisions. Kia on the left is a young cancer survivor who was laid off due to the pandemic and while trying to save for her university. And through a grant made to Ontario parents advocating for children with cancer, Kia received funds so she could help pursue her dream of becoming a psychiatrist. We helped also to fund the YMCA's efforts to connect youth with community resources through a warm personal handoff to make sure nobody slips through the cracks. And we provided funds to Christmas for Kids, another wonderful local trusted organization, so that they could provide the urgent supplies to families throughout Innisfil on the onset of the pandemic, and also to help support their Christmas warm clothing drive to keep families warm during the winter months. And just before I turn it to the next slide, I personally do want to thank those who supported us in getting this foundation established. I think one of the greatest accomplishments of the foundation this year was to identify and connect the many wonderful local organizations in the community with each other. We are seeing increased networking and interconnectivity between them. And I personally believe that this is making this stronger community and a lasting impact within our municipality. The foundation is making a difference and we can actually see it happening. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Well, we wish that there was time to talk about all of the projects that were funded this year, but knowing that you have a full agenda tonight, we thought maybe we would just focus on one of them, a grant that was made to help fund CMHA's peer support program. Peer support is created through a trusting, equal, and empowering recovery-oriented relationship between two individuals who share a similar experience. It can serve as an incredibly powerful tool in recovery and healing. Locally, CMHA's peer support program has been growing in momentum over the years, with clinicians increasingly seeing the role that peer support plays in providing a holistic approach to wellness. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit our community, resources became thin, and the program was at risk of being canceled. The program went from being funded to being supported by volunteers who really struggled to keep it afloat. With funding from the Innisfil Community Foundation, CMHA was able to not only continue this life-saving program, but also train more local peer support workers and open this resource up to all Innisfil residents free of charge. With the mental health crisis that has developed from the COVID-19 pandemic, we are thankful that we could help fill this needed gap for our community. We also encourage anyone who's listening tonight who may be struggling with their mental health to reach out to CMHA for support. Next slide, please. We'll wrap this up with a list of all of the charities that received a grant from Innisfil Community Foundation in 2020. This screenshot is from a Zoom call that we organized back in October for grant recipients to come together and learn more about each other. We held this virtual information share as part of our guiding principle to offer support beyond the check. Knowing that resources are thinner than ever due to COVID, we thought that by sharing information about their missions, local charities might find opportunities to collaborate and to do more together. Next slide, please. There are so many incredible charities working hard to support the residents of Innisfil. We could speak to you for hours, sharing the stories that we've heard and telling you everything that we've learned this year. But instead, we'll leave you with our gratitude. We're grateful to our partners at the Town of Innisfil and OLG. To members of council, past and present, we once again thank you for your foresight, and for this council in particular, we thank you for your continued support. This has been a difficult year for everyone, but it's hard to imagine just how difficult it's been for you as our elected leaders to bear the burden of this pandemic during your term. We understand that you have had very tough decisions to make, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for continuing to put your faith in the Innisfil Community Foundation as we support our community through this crisis and continue our mission to make Innisfil a better place for all of us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I wish I could stand up and applaud, but I just want to say thank you so much for all of that work that you've done. It's just incredible. And I will open it up to questions to members of council. Questions or comments? Councillor Sadi.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the members on the Foundation Committee. And it couldn't have come at a better time when this began. We never knew that we would be where we are today. Timing is perfect. How the foundation was already organized, set up, willing and able to run, and you ran perfectly. You've made it through the finish line in helping so many organizations and so many people making a difference this year. And I just want to say thank you, a big thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sadi. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Councillor Sadi pretty much said it all. I just have to say thank you to all of you for what you've done, the time that you've put into it, what you've accomplished. And I hope that it can continue. And there's so many people out there that are grateful for what they have now because of you. So thank you so much.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say thank you as well. I thought the key point you mentioned at the very beginning is that you were able to pivot and jump on opportunities that allowed you to provide more funding to the community. So I think that was really astute of you, and I congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Everything has been said, but I do also want to say thank you to the committee for sticking with us, and hopefully we'll stick with you for another year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Payne.
Just one more question for those that are watching out there that would like to make a donation. Do they take it right to the Innisfil Church, or is there another location that they can take it, or to mail to you?
Sandra, did you want to take that one, or Anne?
There is an online portal that they can go on to Innisfil Community Foundation and make a donation online. I've encouraged, instead of handing out gifts for Christmas, to make donations online, and that's working out well, as well as I think that's at this moment with COVID, that's the only portal that we have. Correct, Jen?
Thank you.
Thank you. I can just share that if anyone was interested in sending in a check as well, it can be made care of Town Hall, but the check should be made out to Innisfil Community Foundation. Thank you for asking that, Councillor Payne.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So I'll just echo that, it's not just the money that's helping our community, but it's the time that all of you have put into this. I think you said 20 meetings since March. That's incredible. And I know that that's, your time is precious, and we appreciate that you're sharing it with our residents to make their lives better. And also the support staff like Jen that are there to help you along the way. We're very proud of them as well. So without seeing any more hands, unless any of the committee had anything else they'd like to say, I'd just like to wish you a very wonderful holiday season, and I hope that you get a chance to enjoy yourselves over the holidays. I know it's going to look a little different, but I wish you much peace, and I wish us all a healthy 2021.
Thank you.
So with that, I would ask that the recommendation that the information be received with thanks be moved by Councillor Orsatti and seconded by Councillor Payne. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you so much. You're welcome to stay on if you want, or you can, you're welcome to leave, whichever you see fit. And that just means our guests, not you, Council. You don't get to leave. All right, so the next item up is the delegation, and that is from Jen Ray, our communications fundraiser coordinator, and she's going to speak to us about the youth engagement strategy. Whenever you're ready, Jen.
Thank you. I actually put my name on incorrectly onto the council agenda, so apologize for my error, but I will pass it along to my colleagues who have done all of the heavy lifting on the strategy.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council for welcoming us here this evening. I'm Jen Murley, the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Innisfil Idea Lab and Library, and I'm here presenting with my colleague, Michelle Spong, who is the Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator for the town of Innisfil. Next slide, please. We're here to talk about a very exciting project, the proposed youth engagement strategy, The Future is Youth. However, before getting started, we want to address the elephant in the room, which is that we're here today presenting a municipal-wide strategy for youth who aren't present. Why do you think that is? It's not because there aren't a lot of young people in Innisfil, nor is it because young people aren't interested in communicating with those who make decisions in their community, but it's because the current system of getting involved isn't necessarily youth-friendly. Inviting youth to a council meeting is asking them to join in a format that is uncomfortable to them. It's asking them to be somewhere where they don't see themselves represented and don't think that their voices will be heard. The processes and procedures that must be followed in order to participate in a council meeting are also quite complicated and unfamiliar to youth. So Mayor Dolan and members of council, you have the power to change the perception that youth in our town have. The Future is Youth is a direct reflection of what we heard from young people, mostly grades 8 to 12 in Innisfil, and they may not be presenting it to you, but the content in the strategy contains information that they would like you to consider. So what we want, the message we want to relay is that we are communicating their message to you. And before we begin, we want to give a really big shout out to all of the youth who volunteered their time to help create this strategy, to the Tamarack Institute for helping create an inclusive, nonpartisan engagement plan, to our many school partners for helping us connect with students and elevate a diversity of voices throughout Innisfil, to Mayor Dolan, council, town staff, and community partners who listened, guided, and helped develop what we have here for you today. Next slide, please. As reflected in the staff report, a youth engagement strategy was identified as a strategic priority supported by the town's previous community strategic plan, Inspiring Innisfil 2020, and it has been identified as a priority in the Our Health Community Health and Wellness strategic plan, as well as the Culture Master Plan. There is no denying that staff and community partners want to make a better effort to include youth perspectives. And Michelle and I have spent the past year listening to youth in Innisfil explain how we can begin to move forward as a community and be more inclusive. And this couldn't have come at a better time, as the community needs assessment and virtual youth engagement workshops revealed to us that the pandemic has caused a significant amount of stress and anxiety for youth. They're feeling isolated and overwhelmed by the uncertainty of the future. And we want them to know that we're still listening, we're acting, and we're making plans to work together for the greater good of the community. Next slide, please. The Future is Youth is a forward-thinking, living document with the goal of providing staff and community partners with the tools to empower and elevate the voices of young people. It was developed with youth, for youth, and is intended to be used by the municipality and the general public so that we keep youth-centered in everything that we do. Additionally, we developed these set of guiding principles, which we're also referring to as our promises to youth. And these are sort of what can be adapted to guide future long-term youth-related projects and plans. And they're further defined on page 5 of the youth engagement strategy, and also further explained in appendix 2 of the staff report. And next slide, and I'll flip it over to Michelle.
Hello, everyone. So in our consultation with over 300 students, Jen and I really made a point of, first and foremost, understanding all of the barriers that exist. So that was essentially our first step. And as you can see, many of the ones listed before you are actually consistent with what's been heard across the province, if not the country. So I'll just highlight a couple. The first one that you can see is that there's actually a lack of youth-led programs and events. So right now, youth feel that there isn't anything specifically aimed at teens or planned with them in mind. The second is promotion and communication. So we heard that there's so much focus on online marketing, and while youth are using social media a lot, they actually prefer to be engaged face-to-face. So they actually want us to be going to them, which resonated a lot. And then intimidation was another. So youth told us they're intimidated to participate in community decision-making because they feel that adults don't truly want to hear what they have to say. So we're trying to work on that as well. Another one is trust and consistency. Youth are social and are more likely to listen and attend events if they know someone's there with them that they trust. And it also makes it a lot less intimidating as well. Another is poor timing for engagement. That came up a lot. It does, take quite some time to build these relationships with youth. And often we reach teens when they're almost, onto that next chapter and out of high school. And then they don't have a lot of time for the things that we're hoping that they're interested in because they have so much else going on. And then reaching diverse youth poses another barrier. So it's really important to understand that one voice does not represent all voices. Another that came up time and time again was actually transportation. And as you know very well, Innisfil is so widespread, and there's not one location that's central or convenient for the majority of youth. So many teens rely on their parents to get around because the costs can quickly add up otherwise. And that leads me to another one, parents being a barrier as well. Sometimes there isn't enough time in the day to commit to all these extracurriculars, and those might not even align with, what their parents want. They might have different views and opinions on what they want their teens involved in. And then the second last would be scheduling and timing conflicts. So that's another. We know that youth are super busy, and we know ourselves it's difficult to manage time, so, after school and then in the mornings and on the weekends. And unfortunately, that's actually when programs and events do take place. So therefore, it's hard for them to attend those. And then the last would be local and global events, especially this year. So whether it be social, environmental, or political, these can all affect youth's motivation and comfort in participating in these discussions to help their community at the end of the day. Next slide, please. Okay, so in speaking with youth, we really found out what matters to them. So we identified 5 key areas of common concern that I'll chat to you about. The first is that youth want more spaces, more places that they feel they actually belong. So right now, there aren't many spaces for young people to just hang out and be past a meal, for example, without being accused of loitering or made to be, feeling uncomfortable, that sort of thing. The second area of concern is that young people want to get around town safely and easily. So it came to our attention that it's something they're not always able to do. We heard many people or many teens feel disconnected from public spaces and therefore unaware of services available to them. And to them, it also feels like they then have to rely on their parents to get around, or they have to go outside of their community to be able to access certain amenities. So for example, going to movie theaters or skate parks, accessing the GO train, those sort of things. The third is that youth also care about their environment. So we heard time and time again about preserving green space and how the future development of Innisfil will impact those spaces. And they also want to be more involved in the creation of sidewalks and trails and those master plans, which is great news because there's lots of opportunities for the town to work with these youth on environmental related projects and how they want to get around town as well. And then also youth, of course, care about their health, which is great. They want to feel more supported when talking about these issues and the things that they, are seeing around them. We learned that suicide and addiction is real in Innisfil and that students are stressed. And so we want to support them. And then the last one is their future. So that's a final area of common concern, the fact that young people do care about their future. And these teens are goal setters. And really it's our responsibility to make sure they feel supported and are provided with diverse opportunities to make their goals a reality. Next slide, please. Okay, key recommendations. Now there's 4 key recommendations to address the barriers and areas of concern that I just spoke about. The first recommendation is that the One Town, One Team create space for youth voices to be heard. We would do this essentially by taking a closer look at the opportunities that exist. So that's within the Youth Connects Committee and the library's teen involvement group. The second would be that the One Town, One Team focus on developing opportunities for collaboration between youth committees and standing committees on council. So for example, bringing the committees, to a youth-friendly space rather than recruiting one voice to represent all of youth's voices, if that makes sense. The third is that we'll start making an effort to meet youth in their spaces, which I mentioned before, where they actually are, instead of expecting them to come to us if they want to be involved. And the last recommendation is to really make youth engagement a part of all that we do so that it essentially just becomes second nature. We want youth to be stakeholders in projects that we know that they care about and that we know will affect them, and really just make it a natural thing moving forward. Next slide, please. Back to you, Jen.
So in addition to everything that Michelle covered, research over the past 20 years actually shows that there are a plethora of health benefits associated with youth who are engaged in their communities. And these are some, but not all. So youth who are engaged have an increased self-esteem, and there have been signs of a reduction of depressive symptoms, all of which contribute to a decreased risk of suicide. There's reduced substance use and smoking, increased critical thinking skills, and improved academic performance, and a reduction in dropout rates. And again, the benefits of youth who are engaged are expanded upon in the Future's youth engagement strategy, and the research is also cited in the staff report. Next slide, please.
Okay, so implementation. An implementation plan is actually being developed, and following council's approval, it'll begin by educating staff and community partners that this youth engagement strategy document actually exists, and then ideas for how they can incorporate it and apply it into their work. So as for how we'll implement the strategy, we'll start by, of course, applying what we've learned. So for example, removing the barrier of engagement by meeting youth where they actually are, going into the schools more often. We'll also educate others on the strategies such as town staff and how it can help to inform their work as well. We'll also commit to assessing ourselves continuously on an ongoing basis and just doing sort of that gut check. So asking, were youth involved in the planning process? And then for the last two, we'll commit to continuously engaging, keeping the strategy updated. And as Jen mentioned before and previously, unlike traditional strategic plans, the Futures Youth is actually a living document. So we see it being updated regularly, which means we'll be adding new voices and perspectives as our community evolves. Next slide, please.
So thank you again, Your Worship, and members of council and everyone who tuned in to the meeting tonight. We hope that you consider the research and recommendations presented to you throughout this strategy to empower our youth and really create an environment that embraces youth voices here in Innisfil.
Thank you so much, Jen and Michelle. Really appreciate that. Love the presentation. Questions and comments from members of council. Councillor Fowler.
Good evening, ladies. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I can see all the work that went into it. The one thing that I am kind of curious about, maybe it's just my particular background and my history, but is there anything that we can look at with this to guide the youth when it comes to potential employments, things they wish to look into? For example, there are those that may have a technical ability or a technical desire, some way we can direct them towards other associations that would assist them through collaboration. Or, for example, someone wants to say, for example, become it was more artistic, something that would be more in that direction. Like, I see that there's a lot of reception here where we're hearing what they say, we're trying to give them a space, but what are we going to do with it when we have it? How are we going to guide them to become more I'm trying to think of the right word here, I apologize, more secure with themselves and the direction they wish to go?
Jen?
Yeah, I can answer this question. This is definitely something we're looking into with our community partners, especially through the library. We do have partnerships with organizations who help connect youth to employment opportunities, and we have begun to create a series of adult 101 classes, which were recommended through some of our engagement sessions. But again, this is something that we'll continue to work on with some of the partners who are already involved in developing this strategy. And I just want to highlight that this is the first step among many. And we did encourage organizations to start the work before we were finished, but also to continue the conversations with us. And a lot of those relationships were established in, I would say, the third workshop that we held, where we actually allowed the organizations to talk directly with youth about employment and creating more opportunities for them. And just finally, as well, we are planning engagement sessions in the second week of January with grade 8s to grade 12. And part of that is educating them on future development projects, such as the mobility orbit, that would actually bring more employment opportunities to our young people.
Follow up, if I may, Your Worship.
Certainly.
If we're looking along these lines with the employment opportunities, would we be collaborating with local businesses? Would we be reaching out to them as well to give the companies the option of hiring more locally, like a first option? My thought is that if our youth build the town, they're less inclined to leave it because it's a place they help create.
Jen?
Thanks, Councillor Fowler. I would definitely agree with what you just said. And I think that's also kind of articulated throughout the strategy as well. And we have been working with the economic development team, who we did have a representative, again, come to the third workshop and look over the strategy as well. So there's a lot of future cross-functional work that needs to happen. But I think it's already started to happen, which is really exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Asadi.
Thank you. I thought it was a great report. I liked even the artwork. I thought it says youth all over it. And it was a lot of good comments in it, especially, with youth saying that the tokenism for feedback not taken into account in the decision-making process. And I think that leads perfectly into your comments and the teens' comments about collaborating with opportunities to collaborate with standing committees in the town and other ones that are working there. So a lot of great work. And I think, like anybody who gives a lot of feedback, they want to see something happen, not just gather it and then it just sits there and collects dust. But this looks like it really does have an action plan. In reading the document, and I was also reading the Futures Youth Engagement Strategy, which is a report is in Council's agenda tonight. There was comments in there about a dedicated youth coordinator. I didn't see anything in the budget about that. Is there currently a dedicated youth coordinator in place, or is this something that is going to be asked for in the future?
Jen, did you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take this one as well. So no, we do not have a youth engagement coordinator currently, and we did not include that in the 2021-2022 budget. However, we do work extremely cross-functionally with library staff, our health and wellness team. We all sort of, leisure as well, of course, sort of dip into youth engagement and try and incorporate a youth perspective in some of the work that we currently do. However, it would be extremely helpful to hire somebody who is dedicated specifically to youth engagement in the future.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something somewhere. But thank you very much for a well-designed report and your presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree. I think it's a great strategy. It's a good place to start. I think we have a roadmap in terms of where we can go with this. I do have one question and then a following comment is that with getting youth involved, I think it's quite easy to get youth involved if they're for high school students, if they're at Nantire. So I was wondering, in terms of the students you were talking to, were many from St. Pete's, which is the high school in Barrie that Innisfil students go to? And I just want to make sure they're reflected in that because their school isn't physically in Innisfil.
Jen or Michelle?
I don't mind taking this one.
Okay.
So it's funny you actually mentioned because I was actually at St. Pete's doing the engagement session. So we did make an effort to actually, get into that building and speak with the teens there. But it was sometimes hit or miss because, like you mentioned, there's a portion who are from Innisfil and then the remainder are from Barrie. So a part of that was really, being upfront and asking, hey, do you live in Innisfil? Hey, do you live in Innisfil? And we did get some, and then we also got a lot of no's, but that doesn't mean we would just end it there. So that's why we keep making it a point that this document, will evolve because we want it to be representative of Innisfil youth. And it is tricky. Of course, to find that balance with all of them, but we did make that effort to go out, and then there was also the online portion, which we are big fans of, to try and even if that session has concluded, for them to get that information and still be able to leave their feedback online. But moving forward, of course, we're going to keep all of those bases covered as much as possible. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. It does. And just a kind of a comment in terms of an opportunity is that I think their input in terms of the future of Innisfil Beach Park would probably greatly be appreciated. So I think if there's any way we can get them involved as soon as possible in terms of letting them take a look at what we've kind of temporarily planned, some of the ideas, maybe take some new ideas and build that into the park. So I just thought that would be a good project where they could get really involved in right away because there's a lot going on in the park. And I think we need as counselors to hear what they have to say about what types of decisions we're making and where we're putting the money.
Absolutely. thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. And I think for Jen and I to go back, it's also worthwhile to, note when we're thinking of our stakeholders, when we're doing outreach, we have to find a balance and make sure we're, hitting all of the moving targets and getting the feedback across the board. So rest assured, we're always trying to be as inclusive as possible when we're doing those engagement sessions.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Worship, and echo the councillors' comments. Just a great presentation. Just a couple of things that you touched on through the presentation, and I don't need necessarily to answer where else, but just mentioning on youth transportation, I wonder maybe there's an opportunity for like maybe a Uber for teens, that we could look at some sort of special program that way to help them out, because clearly we have, on-demand ride sharing available right now. So I wonder if there might be something like that. There was something that you had in two parts there with the lack of programs and places to go, and a bit tongue-in-cheek, it's really too bad we didn't have a BMX pump track in a central location in Innisfil where we could send those kids, because I'm sure they would have a great time with that, but another time I'm sure again. And I just wonder if there may be some, revisiting of the original student mayors program that happened in the past to try and get some more of that input as well too. So, and then I guess my last comment was just, as you're saying, engaging the youth of Innisfil, but unfortunately, people in this end of the town also go to Bradford High School too. So whether it's Barrie or Bradford or Innisfil, that's where we need to be able to reach them. So otherwise, great presentation. Just, maybe there's some other opportunities we can look at. But again, just a bit tongue in cheek about the BMX track. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to Jennifer and Michelle. All the questions that I have been answered, so I'm good with that. I appreciate what you're doing, and keep up the good work, because the kids are going to turn out good with having leadership like yourselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I would echo Councillor Payne's comments, and thank you, ladies, very much. And, much of what I read, I did attend one or two, I can't remember, of the youth engagement strategies. And it was really eye-opening for me. Hearing somebody say that, there's nowhere they can go, that they don't feel like somebody's looking at them saying, you're not supposed to be here. And I guess it was so long ago that I was that age, I'd forgotten that feeling, but it was really eye-opening to hear things from their perspective, and the issue of tokenism. So I was at a symposium where there was a very young councillor from the City of London, and she was a person of color, and she was very young, and she was like, I tick off all the boxes, right? So people want me in the room, not to listen to me, but because they can say, look, yes, we have youth, we have diversity. And just the fact that that whole tokenism piece. And I have to say to Councillor Nicol, I felt a little bit like our old student mayor program was a little bit like that. They got chosen from their class. They came to council. They were given a couple of minutes to read a speech, and at their first meeting and their last meeting. And the first time a student mayor actually got up and started criticizing things that council did, we stopped the program. So I'm just saying that, yes, there is an opportunity here to look at things totally different. And I can see the intimidation, like when we've invited before young people to come to council to get an award or to, celebrate some achievement that they have had with athletics or something, they're nervous as all get out. You can tell how intimidated they are, and understand how, what we do isn't a place for them to really put forward their ideas. So I really congratulate you two, Ms. Hurley, and whoever this Ms. Spong is, who congratulations on your wedding. and look forward to see where you can take this. And I'm very, very excited.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I just want to jump in, if that's okay, just to provide some clarity, because I heard a few counselors mention what was, I forget the proper term for it before, but it evolved into the Youth Connects Committee, which I believe you're all quite familiar with. And that's, where the teens actually decide what they want to work on. So the Youth Mental Health Summit that happened time and time again, obviously Leisure Services, that's their baby, so they know all about it. But the mayor's program has actually transitioned into the Youth Connects Committee. But in the strategy, we also identified that's something we want to tap into a little bit more, as well as the teen involvement group. But yes, that's all for me. Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'd ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation. Councillor Waters and Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And ladies, we'll be discussing your report a little bit later on. So thank you. All right, next we have the County Council, Municipal Association, Conservation Authority, and Committee updates. And if I could, I would like to add one other title to this section that could, at least for the foreseeable future, become a regular update at our council meetings, and that is an EOC update. So that's the Emergency Operations Center. And as you know, since we declared a state of emergency back in March, there's been an Emergency Operations Center made up of the sector chiefs from all different parts of the organization. And they're there to get us through an emergency and make strategic and logistic decisions. And as you know, most emergencies are, hours or maybe a couple of days, but not 10 months. So the EOC thought what would be a good thing to keep council updated on what, and the public on what discussions and directions are coming forward, that in this section of the agenda, we could ask our lead communications or our emergency communications office to come forward and just give us a bit of update every council meeting on what's happening at EOC. So today with us, we have Mr. Keogh. Mr. Keogh, would you like to give us an update?
Hi, thank you, Your Worship. And that was a great introduction. Just thanks for explaining the context of all of this. At these meetings, we also do receive a lot of information. So some of this comes from the province, some of this comes from the medical officer. Bear with me here. So at our most recent EOC meeting, we did receive information from the Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ontario that there was a memo released that indicated that the province is temporarily allowing police and municipalities to support enforcement of emergency orders. We did receive some unfortunate information that transmission in our area is growing, and keeping in mind that this information is from about a week ago, so we know those numbers are changing, particularly in southern municipalities in Simcoe County. This does mean that we could be looking at moving into red under the province's framework in the near future. We did update these numbers and look at today, and as we say, Innisfil has had 226 COVID cases, 193 have recovered, and there has been one death, as we're aware. The health unit recently revised their letter of instruction to businesses and organizations in Simcoe Muskoka with changes in light of a lot of feedback they received. That information is up on the website right now. It's live. The team, looking at our experience so far, and in light of what's happened, frankly, this year with the COVID pandemic, we're going to look at our learnings and update our response plan for next year. We did recently, as this council is undoubtedly aware, have some successful events. You should be aware that those are brought forward to the EOC just to make sure we are talking with South Simcoe Police, with fire, with staff, with BILA, everyone is there. Those events do come through us as well. We had successful events, as you're aware, the drive-through Santa Claus Parade and Light Up Night. That was also, we had the consultation with SMDHU, and we saw a lot of good COVID safety measures in place there. We received good feedback on our live streaming for our rinks and our facilities. We even had phone calls from other municipalities looking to do this themselves. And we've also had some positive feedback from our colleagues about our own internal, that we do share it, when we have guests come, our own COVID screening app. And that has been shared with other county municipalities. And just one last note that we are moving to bi-weekly meetings. However, the caveat for that is, of course, if the province were to come forward, if there's some information, then we would trigger an EOC meeting, right away, just to make sure we deal with that. I also have one piece, while I do have the floor, if Your Worship doesn't mind indulging me. This is, it is not related, but it is just that we have had a major pipe break in our Lefroy fire station tonight. There is some extensive damage, 3 inches of water on the floor. So for tonight, we are relocating our staff to the Alcona station, just so we can assess everything in the morning. Fortunately, the volunteer trucks can still be accessed. They can still be used if need be tonight. And in the morning, fire and rescue services will be there to assess the damage and take a look. And so we'll likely have more information for you about that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Johnny. And I hope members of council and the public will, see that as a helpful update every meeting. Other updates from members of Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sure many people have heard that Mayor Dolan has now been elected as Deputy Warden of the Simcoe County in our 174th year. So I wish to congratulate her. I told her before that she had it in the bag, so I just felt your energy was good. Your knowledge of what's going on in Queen's Park is a great asset to the county and to Innisfil, and with your other connections with AMO. So I just want to say thank you. We look forward to, as a whole team here, to see what you can do for the greater good of Simcoe County and have Innisfil's voice heard. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I really do appreciate those kind comments. I just wanted to make one point of clarification, though, from some emails and social media that may be good news or bad news, depending on your perspective, but I'm not leaving Innisfil. I will still be your mayor, and I will still continue out the term. And this is additional duties that all county deputy mayor also has additional duties as a county councillor, and these are additional duties I will take on, but I'm still very committed to carrying out my term as your mayor and giving it 100% of the energy that I have since the beginning. So any other, Councillor Waters had comments.
Thank you, Worship, and congratulations on that. That responsibility. I just wanted to, on behalf of conservation authorities throughout Ontario, to let our viewers know that our provincial government passed a bill 229 last night or the night before. And basically, this is a bill that tries to take away most of the responsibilities of conservation authorities throughout Ontario in favor of developers. And the conservation authority is going to lose their ability to do enforcement in terms of, so if you have somebody infilling property, they're going to lose that ability to do that. Issuing permits, I'm not too sure what's going to happen with that one there. They're politicizing the whole thing. So if a developer doesn't like a ruling at LPAT that we've maybe gone to court with them, they'll be able to go to the minister and ask the minister to override that. So they politicize the whole situation, and they're also asking for to change our responsibilities as members of the Conservation Authority. So now currently, Councillor Nicol and I go to the Conservation Authority board meetings, and we're supposed to represent the environment. We're supposed to represent conservation authorities and what is best for the environment. This bill now asks us to look out for what's best for Innisfil. And doesn't matter what's best for Bradford or anything else, just what's good for Innisfil. So we're supposed to represent Innisfil and not the environment. That's no longer our priority, which I think is totally wrong. Conservation authorities were designed to look holistically at watersheds, and this change of responsibility is not consistent with what our main job is to do. So I think that with this bill, it puts a threat of our environment. I think it puts threat Lake Simcoe in terms of the protection plan. I think it threatens any future developments that we want to do in terms of being overridden by the province just for the sake of development. And they did this, which was really really nasty. And I hate to use that word, is that they didn't have any confidence to bring it towards the public in open discussion. They hid it in an omnibus bill where they were hoping no one would notice it. They did it during a pandemic, again, hoping that no one would notice what was going on. So this is a serious attack on Ontario's environment, and I think every citizen should be writing a letter. And I'm terribly disappointed in our local MP that they didn't stand up, even though they sit on the Ministry of Environment, did not stand up and speak against this bill. So I just want people to know that they have a job ahead of them. All of us have a job ahead of us to somehow correct this if it's still possible. And I'll ask all of us to, and I know we did send a letter out mentioning that we oppose this. We wanted the withdrawal Schedule 6 from this bill, and they didn't listen to us. They clouded the whole issue by suggesting that they did consultation, but there was no formal report that came from that consultation and where these recommendations came from. I went to those meetings, and none of these recommendations were based in that. In the bill that came forward. So they're using cover of the consultation process, which they never took seriously to begin with. They then handed out I think it was $30 million for wetlands, to protect wetlands, even though this bill will now threaten wetlands. So it's really, really quite disheartening what they've done. And I just want to make sure the residents of Innisfil realize that what the Conservative government done in this omnibus bill, which was supposed to be for COVID-19, and this amendment had nothing to do with COVID. It was strictly to hide it because they thought it was a good time to push it through. I'm using a little more positive than this, but I'm really sad to see what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. And as you did say, this council did send out our collective thoughts on this through correspondence. Any other associations updates? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the consent list. So we'll go through the consent list, and if there's anyone who hasn't watched a council meeting before, we go through each of the items. If council is happy with the recommendation that staff is proposing, it'll remain and won't be pulled. If council might pull something to ask a question of further discussion or to amend a recommendation, and then we will move forward with a confirming bylaw at the end of the evening. So we'll start with our consent list. Item A1, our minutes from November the 11th. Oh, that was the meeting. Yeah, that was the meeting that went over 2 dates, so the 11th and the 25th. Good times. Okay, item A2, the special council meeting minutes of November 25th. A3, the council meeting minutes of November the 25th. A4, the special council meeting budget minutes of November the 30th. B1, the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee report dated November the 5th. Councillor Ices?
I'd like to refer that to committee, please.
Thank you. B2, the School Zone Traffic Safety Advisory Committee report dated November the 19th. C1, the final proposed 2021 and 2022 operating and capital budgets. Councillor Orsatti.
Hold that one, please.
C2, the COVID-19 Community Needs Assessment Project update. C3, the Future is Youth, Youth Engagement Strategy. So no one's pulling that, so we just want to thank again the delegation this evening. C4, the proposed housekeeping amendments to delegated authority bylaw 045-18. Councillor Arsati? Refer to committee.
Yes, please.
C5, staff report regarding the 2020 municipal drain maintenance assessments. C6, part lot control exemption bylaw for Alcona Downs development. C7, that was the late addition. That was the support for Innisfil broadband. D items, staff reports for information. There's 4 here. Did anyone want to pull any of those? Councillor Waters?
D1.
The road rehabilitation. Thank you. Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on item D2, I don't need to pull it because we're just receiving it, but just a comment to staff if I might.
Certainly.
Thank you. So looking at the Bill 108, the third dwelling units, I know we're just receiving this, but I wonder what the impact will be considered with their current capacity for water and wastewater allocations, as this is being considered, and will this be based on current restrictions in areas such as Cookstown where there is no allocation available? So would this have to be an area specific plan? And then would those on septic systems be able to work with this without having to increase the capacity? Or would they be denied part of this plan as well too? So just, again, we're just receiving it tonight, but just comments for staff.
You know what? I also had a question on that. So maybe we will refer that one if that's okay with you, Councillor Nicol.
Sure.
Councillor Arsati, was that the same one you were wanting to pull? Okay. Any others? Seeing none, bylaws. E1, that's the tax levy bylaw. So question for clerks, just a procedural question. So we've pulled the staff report. So if the staff report changes, then would the bylaw need to change? Clerks or finance, somebody? Hi, Ms. Webb.
Hi. So the interim bylaw, it is just based on 50% of the 2020 taxes. So regardless of what you do with the budget, the 2021 budget, we would still levy the same amount.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. I should have known that. Thank you so much. So E2, that was about the collective agreement with Unifor. E3, Raynor Court. Not named after our illustrious CAO. I just might want to add that. E4, for a turning circle on Spring Street. E5, appoint acting mayor for the balance of the council term. Councillor Fowler?
Just want to pull it just for a quick discussion for the public's purposes, if possible, please, and thank you.
Sure. There's no correspondence for action. And then we go into correspondence for information. So G1 is AMO's rant about Bill 229, Schedule 6. G2, the health unit, letters to businesses. G3, in-services board minutes. G4, the library board minutes. And that is everything. And that matches my list. And so could I please have a mover and a seconder to pull these items? Moved by Councillor Van Berkel and seconded by Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? That is carried. So the first item was item B1 and, oh, sorry. Need a mover and a seconder to resolve into committee of the whole. Councillor Fowler, Deputy Mayor Davidson. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we will go to item B1, and that was Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question for the committee with regards to the correspondence that was received for the 5417 Yonge Street. They sent a note, a letter to the committee saying they did not want to be part of the municipal heritage register. So just for my own understanding, what happens in that situation, and what kind of discussion occurs with the owners of the property when they do not wish to be on the list?
Thank you, Ms. Nordstrom.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Ices. So there is a review board that has been set up, the Conservation Review Board. It's a tribunal that hears from anyone who's wishing to dispute a designation under the Heritage Conservation Act.
Follow up, Councillor Ices or Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Worship. Just procedurally, I'm more than happy to second the motion that's on the floor for Councillor Ices. And also, on a side note, I did reach out to somebody that knows that resident, just to clarify that. And I did get a text back this afternoon that he actually has changed and says he does want it to be a historical house. So I had a concern as well too, whether we were possibly forcing something, but clearly the resident or the owner has had a change of heart, according to the text I received anyways this afternoon.
Any other questions or comments or amendments on this, Councillor Payne?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention that all the historical homes are sent the letters and asking that they were requesting that they go on to the heritage listing, and some of them don't want to go on. But the whole idea is to protect the heritage of Innisfil. And being on the list, it deters people from tearing portions of the house down so they can put a new addition or something on. It's just to keep the heritage in Innisfil, and we want to keep it alive and well. So it's just trying to protect the old homes. So that's all we're trying to do. Hope we can continue.
I just wanted to add to that too, the difference between actually putting it on the register and designating it. It's two levels. So putting it on the register simply means that if there's a demolition permit, that there's a cooling off period where the Heritage Committee would have time to look at it to see whether it was worth designating. If it's designated, that's the next level up. So if a house isn't on a register and they apply for a demolition permit, the planning department, and I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong, they must issue a permit within a set number of days and once some conditions are met, which are, things like making sure that the gas is turned off and stuff like that. So what being on the register is kind of, you've got your foot in the door, but the door's not all the way open. It doesn't mean that the house is designated under the Heritage Act. I hope that helps. So we have a mover and a seconder for this motion. Are you comfortable with your name moving this motion, Councillor Ices?
Yes, thank you. No, but that answers my questions very well. Thank you.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Ices and seconded by Councillor Nicol. Any other comments or questions on this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. The next item is C1, and that's Councillor Arsati. You're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry, my apologies. My seconder for pulling this item is Councillor Waters. I'm not looking to not move the motion of the final proposed 2021-2022 operating capital budgets. But when I was going back over my notes for today's meeting and looking at this, I pulled out my my writing pad that I had the budget items in and my questions. And one of the questions that I forgot to ask at the time of the budget, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about without holding up the budget. And that is a very, I believe even Mr. Stanley was one of the ones in when it was talking about the mixed use area, about the islands that are located along Innisfil Beach Road. And the islands have become in very poor state of repair. They need more than just a touch-up. They've had bricks that are crumbling. I've seen staffs trying to pick them up along Innisfil Beach Road. And I think that these mediums and islands that have the planters in it, we even had difficulty this year with staff being able to even manage the plant material. But I feel that this is something that we need to get some more information on. I have a friendly amendment for this item. And this is, my amendment is that council directs staff to investigate repair and/or replacement of the affected Innisfil Beach Road mediums and report back with funding options and include a service level option for horticultural maintenance. This is a key part of everything that's been built up in the previous council's design for this whole downtown area. And I know there's been a lot of controversy on this, on these mediums and islands, but they have a purpose. And, our first impression should not be crumbling bricks. And this is not to change the operating capital budget that we have at 0%, but for staff to come back to council with some solutions that they can and to what can be done to look after them for 2021. And if there's some more work that's needed for 2022 or wherever, that they come back with recommendations and how that can be handled outside of the current budget that we have.
Thank you. So we'll now just talk on the amendment. Councillor Waters.
Yeah, I'm going to support Councillor Rosati's amendment for a couple of reasons. One, 2 years ago, I asked Mr. Inwood about the islands, and nothing's been done in 2 years to repair these things. I think I'm one of the few people who actually like the islands. I think they break up that long road down there. So I do like the trees and the planting because I think it makes the environment much more friendly. So I don't want to see them disappear, but I want to see them repaired. And coincidentally, I had a resident in Ward 4 call me today with this exact complaint. And so it was great that Councillor Arsati contacted me to second this because they're becoming an eyesore and we need to do something about it. And I fully support her amendment.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to give thanks to the staff for finding the funds for the fire inspector change that we had debated during the budget process.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're just speaking to the amendment now, and you'll be first when we get to the full motion.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? I'm happy to support this. I'm a little worried that it creates a bit of a slippery slope. I was waiting for 4 more hands to go up and an amendment to be in Ward 7, an amendment to be in Ward 2, an amendment to be in Ward 1, an amendment to be in Ward 6, and off we go. But luckily that hasn't happened. And so I will call the vote on this amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And now the motion is amended, and I will go to Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to say thank you to the staff for finding the budget for the fire inspector change request that was put in there on page 3 of 6. I think it's a good opportunity for this person. I'm familiar with the person that is going to fulfill this job, and I think it's a nice change for Innisfil. So thank you very much for finding the funds for that. I much appreciate it. And there was one thing I did miss, Your Worship, and that was in pulling item E5. Thank you. I don't know if it's too late.
Councillor Fowler pulled E5, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I put it down as E4. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, you wanted E4 or E5?
No, I wrote it down as E4 instead of E5.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on the budget? So another first for my list at the beginning of the meeting, the first, at least in my time, in my 26 years here, that we've passed a zero blended budget for the municipality, and kudos to staff and council for making those tough decisions. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried unanimously. Mr. Rayner.
Your Worship, just want to wish everyone happy holidays, of course. I hope you like my my holiday outfit tonight. I just wanted to take the opportunity really briefly, if I could, Your Worship, members of council. Our fire chief is being pulled in multiple different directions tonight, so I'm not sure how much more of the council meeting he's going to be able to attend tonight. So I did want to take just a moment to thank very much Chief Rayburn for all of his years of service. As you know, Interim Joint Chief Tom Rayburn is finishing up his final weeks with his Innisfil career as he prepares to take on the new challenge as the Deputy Fire Chief in Richmond Hill, one of the largest, 12 largest departments in Ontario. And after more than 2 decades of service to the Innisfil community, Chief Rayburn leaves significantly large boots to fill, especially when you realize, of course, that those boots that he's worn have moved through every rank, literally, we have here in Innisfil, starting with as a volunteer firefighter many moons ago. His legacy here will be felt for many generations, I suspect, not least of which because he's helped to create and design, construct, I think he knows where every screw is in 3 fire halls, new fire halls anyways, that he's done recently. And of course, the significant expansion to our services over these many years. And really, how many fire chiefs can say that they've been able to introduce a fire boat to their service? I mean, that's pretty impressive. I look forward to inviting Chief Rayburn back to have our maiden voyage in the summer of 2021. I believe we have confirmation that we're going to receive delivery before the end of the year. I've seen the photos. It looks really sharp, and very excited for that. So I know I speak for all of the fire family, the staff, the community council, when I say that you'll be dearly missed, Chief Rayburn. But we wish you the very best in this new chapter of your very distinguished career. And thank you so much for your service, dedication, passion, and tireless efforts. Thank you, Worship. Thank you, members of council.
Thank you, Chief Rayburn. We I just keep telling people you can take the chief out of Innisfil, but you can't take Innisfil out of the chief. You're homegrown, and we're so proud of you, and hope that you will continue to come home and visit us often. And if you wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor and CAO and all of council for all the opportunities I've been given in my 26 years with Innisfil Fire, and it really is a family. And I know that may sound cliche to people that are listening, but I started here when I was 22 or 23, whatever it is. I've been here longer than my kids have been alive, and I've been with my wife, so it is a family, and it is very hard to leave. It's going to be very hard walking out the door of the fire hall on my last day, that's for sure. I am excited to join Richmond Hill. Like CEO Rayner said, it is one of the 12 largest communities in Ontario, and they do a lot of really cool things. And oh, I've got lights back in the hall again. Look at that. Yeah, so it's going to be a tough last day, but I certainly appreciate all the opportunities I've been given, the confidence that you folks have had in me over the years. And it's been a true pleasure and privilege being part of this department for so long, starting as a volunteer and working my way up and learning from awesome people that I've been able to work with and continue to learn from. And you're right, you can't take me out of Innisfil. Well, you can take me out of Innisfil as an employee, but I am not going anywhere. I was born here and I'm raised here, and I'm not going anywhere. I love this community. I love being part of it, and I'm certainly going to be missed being part of the Innisfil employee family and the whole one town, one team that Innisfil is. So thank you all very much for everything.
Well, Chief, you know, we have double hatters now, so you can come back and be a volunteer in Innisfil.
There we go. That's a heck of an idea.
Now, Chief, get out and fix that Lefroy Fire Hall before you go.
I will. Lights are off now. We're making repairs, and we'll be on top of it. Thanks, Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Van Berkel had his hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate it from the time we were volunteers together and watching him grow all the way through these past 25 or more years. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having been a friend. And I wish you nothing but success in your next endeavor. And I hope we see you here quite often. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Councillor. You won't be able to shake me with a stick. I'll be here as much as I can, keeping in touch with my family here, that's for sure. Thank you.
We must grow great chiefs, because now we've got the deputy going to Richmond Hill and our former chief, who is now Ontario's fire marshal. So we're doing something right here. Best of luck, Chief. And so we'll go back now to item C1, and we were just passing the budget, and I believe we had a vote, and if I'm not mistaken, it was unanimous, but I would just like to confirm that so that when somebody complains about something, I can say, well, you voted for the budget. Any opposed to this budget?
No.
There is none. It is unanimous. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so next was item C4, and that was the delegated authority items, and Councillor Orsatti pulled that.
Thank you, Your Worship. My seconder on this one is Councillor Carolyn Payne, and it's really just a question to staff, just for clarification for any of those residents watching. When I was reading the report, sorry, I'm switching my pages here. On page 2 of the report, it talks about, well, this report is really about delegating authority, and this was delegating authority approval to approve applications or demolition of properties individually designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. So I just wanted to clarify with I believe it was Mr. Jacob, that this was not a house but secondary. If you could just give a little bit better understanding on that, that it's not the demolition of heritage homes, but accessory dwellings.
Ms. Nordstrom?
Jacob is available, or there he is.
You're muted, Mr. Jacob.
Muted.
You're muted, Mr. Jacob.
Sorry about that, Madam. Sorry about that, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Orsatti. So yes, the demolition element of this provision on delegated authority would be strictly for non-contributing accessory structures that don't have any contributing heritage value or interest to the property. For example, something like maybe a shed in the rear backyard or a detached garage. In regards to the property itself that delegated under Part 4, it would require approval of council, notwithstanding the repeal of the specific delegated, designation bylaw. Sorry, would need to be the repeal of that would need to be considered by council as well. So if it's a non-contributing structure like a rear shed or detached garage or something like that, but the property itself would still need full council approval for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob. I just thought it was important for the community, if anyone was reading this, feeling that, you know, those demolitions would take place, because everybody gets nervous when they see the demolition. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it would be helpful too is that the attachment with the track changes is in the report. So it's only, the only changes are in red. Everything else that is there was there before. So you can see the housekeeping changes that were made throughout the document. Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Next was item D1, and that was Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I just wanted to make a comment, but if not, Councillor Orsatti would second me on this one here. This has to do with the ninth line, and I must say I am terribly disappointed in how this project has been rolled out over the past couple of years. Although I was one who asked it be delayed, and I asked it to be delayed for safety reasons, I was hoping that in the end that we would have got a much better design for the area around Goodfellow. I understand budget dictates what we could do there, but just in terms of we've been told on an ongoing basis that this would be done this year, and I kept on going back to staff and asking them and reassuring me. Even up until 3 weeks ago, I was still told, and the reason I'm a little upset is because residents call me and say, when is this going to be done? When is this going to be done? And, you know, and I contact staff, they tell me what's going on, and I report back to residents. And I was reassured on many, many occasions that this project would be done before the end of the year, even in the dying days of November. I was still getting a confirmation that we would get one surface down. And then to find out, I didn't even get an email from staff saying that this had been changed. And so I'm just disappointed in terms of that. It didn't get done this year. We never got the true safety requirements we needed for the ninth line around Goodfellow. You know, there was discussion about having lights, and then we were told there would be no crossing lights. It's just going to be a straight crosswalk at one end. And now it's delayed till next year. Now it had been delayed so much that I even had a few residents call me recently saying that they wanted it delayed because they didn't think doing it in the wintertime was a good idea. But staff had reassured me on many occasions that this was still going to get done. And so this project, as far as I'm concerned, has not gone very, very well. And I think staff need to do a better job at keeping us informed in what's going on and giving some realistic timelines of when these projects can be done. Because now, you know, when residents call me, you know, they're going to be asking, well, is this true, or are we going to find out at the end of the year this project doesn't get done? So I think I've lost a little bit of credibility. Councillor Fowler, I'm not too sure what his residents are saying to him, but I'll tell you, I just point out how this project has gone. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Councillor Waters. I'm sure staff will take it seriously. I do know that And that might partly be on me because I did get a copy of a letter that went out to all the residents from engineering explaining that it was going to be put off till next year. And I thought you were copied on it, but if you weren't, and if Councillor Fowler wasn't, I do apologize for that. But yeah, good feedback. And thank you. Anyone else on this item? So we have a mover and a seconder was Councillor Orsatti, I believe. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Nicol, D2.
Your Worship, if I could find a seconder, I don't have to change anything. Obviously, we're just receiving this. Just I'll make those comments that I made before, if possible.
Sure, Councillor Orsatti seconding it.
Great, thank you. I'll just go back to my switcher. So again, we're just receiving this tonight, and the Bill 108 says that, you know, third dwelling units are a great idea. I wonder what the impact will be. Staff will consider capacity of our water and wastewater allocations, especially with the developers and what's going on with the increases there. These I would hope would be considered before that or during this process. Based that we do have current restrictions in areas such as Cookstown where there is absolutely no allocations available. Would this have to be an area specific plan, or would it be, I don't think it could be rolled out to the entire community. And then I just wonder the impact for some of us in the rural areas, whether there'd be an impact to the septic systems, whether you would have to do something to increase capacity, or would they just be denied this opportunity as well. So just my comments for this, for when it comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nordstrom, did you want to respond to any of that?
Yes, to Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Nichols' questions. Certainly it was something that we looked at when we introduced the second dwelling units bylaw in terms of restrictions for Cookstown and looking at septic and capacity there. And we will look at that when we bring through this process. There will be a public meeting before there is any sort of recommendation report to council on how to best implement Bill 108. But we appreciate the comments and we will be looking at that for sure moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nordstrom. Ms. Orsatti, Councillor Orsatti, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, a couple comments on this. When I was reading the report, I noticed the survey is on the Get Involved, and I did, because I link into that, did get my own copy through my personal email, and it's only up until January 11th. I have concern with the ending of the timing of this. We're in the holiday time. We're in a pandemic. People are really busy right now with trying to coordinate anything with their families as well as shopping. I just think that closing the Get Involved on January 11th, just as a recommendation that maybe we could look at extending that to the end of January. Also, what's worked really well for staff before is to put on the little Ask Us nights, and this would be a perfect example to share with the community a better understanding if one of those was held. Ask Us about the third dwelling units, and there could be a little video like so that people have a better understanding and that they could ask questions. I too had concerns also with septic for Ward 3. My street and many others are on septic services. So again, those would be some of the questions, whether it would be allowed in those areas. So I just want to give that recommendation for possibly looking at extending the Get Involved webpage and maybe the suggestion of having a Ask Us evening, because I think it would be good for residents, more residents to weigh in on this.
Ms. Nordstrom?
Yep, to you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Orsatti's great points there. I'm happy to extend the survey longer. There is a video available on Get Involved that explains what can be seen to be what the third dwelling units and Bill 108 implications are. But we can certainly look into the format of the public meeting and framing it around the very successful format of the Ask the Planner about third dwelling units. So thanks for those suggestions, and we will incorporate those into the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question of clarification. I understand from the report that this include when we're talking about a third dwelling unit, it can actually be a separate unit on the property, so that for those people who have large lots, they could build a two-story unit in their backyard, and have those 2 units available, 2 units and one in the house, I would assume, in terms of 3 units. Is that correct?
Ms. Nordstrom?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Waters' inquiry, there's different ways that the third dwelling could be accommodated. That's what part of what the survey, the intent of the survey is to get feedback from the community in terms of what forms they'd like to see that take. Sorry. And then we'll be reporting back on what those options could best be implemented within Innisfil. But it can take the form of units outside or units within or attached. There's different ways that it can be implemented.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to provide context too, I watched some of the comments online when the town was reaching out through social media to get comment back, and people seem to be assuming that this was a Town of Innisfil driven initiative. And I want to just let everybody know that this is a provincial requirement that Bill 108 is requiring, that it took effect in September, and the province amended the Planning Act to require municipalities to amend their zoning bylaws to allow 2 dwelling units that are additional and accessory to the primary dwelling of the property. So it's part of the provincial Housing Supply Action Plan. And all municipalities in Ontario are required to do this. However, the town can still consider policies to ensure that the third dwelling units are appropriately situated, and they don't have to be allowed everywhere. But I just want to be very clear to people that this is an exercise that all municipalities are going to be going through, and you'll hear a lot about tiny houses. It's a comment you'll hear a lot over the next few years. So just to put that into context. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. Next is item E5, Councillor Fowler.
Yes, Your Worship. I don't have an amendment at this moment. I don't really plan on putting one. I'd just like to bring this forth for discussion.
You have a seconder, Councillor? Sorry.
Deputy Mayor Davidson. I'd just like to bring it forth for discussion, just get clarification and have it out in the public forum. At the January 9th meeting last year, when this particular situation arose, there was debate amongst the councillors, and it was a 2-year term that was given to Councillor Nicol, and I understand he's performed admirably. You've said yourself how he's with the EOC, he's stepped up more times than not, which is very admirable. Now changing it in less than 12 months to a 4-year term, I just think it'd be good if we had an explanation as to why, so that everything's out in the open, it's clear, it's not looking like council's taking a right turn out of the blue for no particular reason or what the case may be. I was wondering if we can get some clarification into the matter, please, and thank you.
Sure. Is Deputy Clerk Toma on the call? Ms. Toma, can you answer the Councillor Fowler's question?
Yes, typically when a new council is elected, the mayor puts forward names as the representative for council on various boards or committees, and typically that is for a 4-year term. We did change that term to a 2-year term, and I think the intent was initially to have someone else have the opportunity to sit in that position. However, given the circumstances with COVID, and that the acting mayor one of the responsibilities is to attend the emergency operations meetings, and Councillor Nicol has done an outstanding job on attendance with those. I believe that it was felt that he should continue in that role to the end of this term of council. Does that answer the question?
It does. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Davidson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I do want to thank Councillor Nicol for stepping up for the EOC when I stepped back, so I do appreciate that. It's acting deputy mayor, not acting mayor, so I just want to make sure we have that clarification. And I'm sure that Councillor Nicol will move forward. I just, did anybody even approach Councillor Van Berkel to ask him if he would be interested in taking over at this particular time? So that, other than that, we'll see where it goes. Thanks. Bye.
Councillor Van Berkel?
Thank you. I think Councillor Nichols is doing an excellent job and he should stay in that position.
Thank you. Councillor Orsatti?
Thank you. On the last term, we had the same, this position, and it was Councillor Doug Lougheed that had it. Because I remember when this came in this term, I was thinking, oh, why do we need a deputy for the acting deputy for the deputy mayor and the mayor? But it's for those times that if the mayor was out of at a workshop or convention, and the deputy mayor was at the county or something else, and something happened that there was another representative that could step in. I think that given COVID and everything that's happening, I think consistency is probably good. And I agree with the deputy mayor and others that I think Councillor Nichols done a good job. And I think that given where we're at and the continuation of the flow, that it would be good to have that same continuity. And thank you, Councillor Van Berkel, for considering it and your recommendation as well.
Thanks for everybody's, Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to reiterate something. The main reason I brought this forth is I wanted an open discussion on it. Again, I have no doubt of the capability of Councillor Nicol. I fully support this. I just wanted it to be clear, so if anybody comes to any of us with a question as to why we have changed tack, we have a clear answer, that everyone's on the same page, that we're all transparent with the reason why we make the choices we make. And I think that quiets other people. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion. It's maybe a discussion that the next term of council should have, because I mean, this is not the only appointment we made. We made 30 appointments the first week of January, and all of them were for 4-year terms. So this one was amended by council. It was recommended by staff to come for 4 years, and it was this council who decided to shorten it to 2, which is fine, because it's simply it's this council's decision who sits on what. But in my opinion, either all of the committees should be 4 years or all of them should be 2 years, as opposed to picking the odd one as being 4 years or 2 years. I think there's pros and cons to both. I think only sitting on the Conservation Authority for 2 years would be difficult, because it takes you 1.5 years just to get up to speed. Whereas I think having people having the opportunity to sit and gather more information is a pro. So there's different opportunities going forward but if the next council chooses to make all the terms 2 year, Councillor Orsatti is our appointment she's the acting for Simcoe County when either the deputy and I can't make it, and hers was a 4-year term. And she's been very diligent in that role, and we really appreciate her. And my only other comment would be poor Councillor Nicol. So 4 years ago, or when in the last term of council, Councillor Lougheed had the job of acting deputy mayor for 4 years. He was called on once, and that was when I was the mayor was away in Florida. There was an emergency, and I needed someone to step me off in this emergency, which lasted 4 or 5 days. It was an ice storm, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, that was the only time he was called forward. Poor Councillor Nicol, I think, has been to like 48 or 50 meetings since March. So twice weekly when the EOC met twice weekly. And I have to tell you, he's been to probably about a dozen more than I have, because I've had to step away to go to an AMO meeting or whatever. So thank you. And I'm sure he'd be quite happy to hand the role over to somebody else at this point, because it's been quite an arduous one. And I don't think one you expect to have when you're third in line. You think, oh, what are the chances? You know, if you're third in line for the throne, you think, oh, I'm never going to, and then all of a sudden, boom, the work falls on your shoulders. So thanks not only to Councillor Nicol, but for everybody for stepping up and doing the extra duty since March, particularly. So we have a mover that was Councillor Fowler and a seconder that was Deputy Mayor Davidson. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I noticed Councillor Nicol voted opposed. Next, we have.
Sorry, Nicol.
The RISE recommendation. Oh my goodness, it's only 8:54. So a mover and a seconder for the RISE recommendation, please. Deputy Mayor Davidson and Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. And next is the consideration of adoption of the recommendations from Committee of the Whole. Moved by Councillor Payne, seconded by Councillor Van Berkel. All those in favor? And that is carried. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, we'll move to announcements. Any announcements this evening? Councillor Orsatti.
Well, first off, I think the rest of council would be surprised if they didn't see a little yellow flag come up under my name. I just wanted to brag about Innisfil Libraries. They've come up with a very innovative idea in their idea shop, the Hack Lab. You can purchase last minute Christmas items. You go online, you place your order. They have everything from lasered glasses to cork coasters with symbols written on it, wording, pillow covers, and even hand done Christmas ornaments that are all done through the laser and wood. And it's quite attractive. You can see samples of it online. So I really encourage you to check it out. And it's just a way of, spreading some cheer, helping the community, and quite resourceful for gathering a little bit of revenue for our library as well. And I just wanted to, again, thank you, Mayor Dolan, for your position as Deputy Warden. In addition to being on council, I know that you represent the county and Innisfil quite well. And I want to wish all the residents, thank the residents of Ward 3 for all we have so many residents that have brought hope to the community, from everyone from Sonia to helping to write cards for seniors and those who are isolated, to Jennifer, who's done is doing the lights contest. And it just shows you the hope that we have in our community. And I want to wish all the residents a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor. Other announcements? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. Obviously, I stayed quiet on item E5. I didn't think it was appropriate for me to weigh in one way or another. First, I just want to thank all of council for putting your trust in me for these past 2 years and for the next 2 years as well. I'm happy to continue on it. With the training I took at the county, as well as the quarterly management meetings since the pandemic began. I've also been into about 50 additional emergency management operations meetings. To me, it makes sense for continuity rather than to having other members step up and trying to get up to speed as we're into this second wave. As you, the mayor, stated, for continuity, I think 4-year terms for all of these appointments definitely makes sense. But I just want to thank council for your trust in my abilities, and look forward to the next 2 years of things simmering down, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comment, or sorry, other announcements? Councillor Ices.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I just wanted to give my word of thanks to Ice Corp with their drive-through Santa Claus parade or Christmas parade that they did on Sunday. It was something new. It was something innovative, and boy, did the residents of Innisfil want to be part of it. The cars were backed up all the way in front of our farm, which I don't believe I've ever seen before, unless it was for an emergency. So to have that opportunity for residents to get together as a community in these trying times was very welcome, and I know a lot of work went into it. So I wanted to thank all those who took part.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Waters.
Yeah, I'd like to say somewhat the same thing. I sat in that line as we went past your place, Councillor Ices, and I was amazed that how orderly it was. It was very, very well organized in terms of all those cars. Like I would have never expected. I told my wife that we'll go around 5:30, and we'll drive right through, and then we'll be back home in a half hour. So was I wrong? It looked like thousands of people there, and I just thought the way they organized the traffic, it was a little backed up on Innisfil Beach Road, but there's nothing you could do about that. But once you got onto the property, there were lots of people there. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was well organized, and I kudos to them for all the volunteers and the help and how well they organized it. So kudos to them.
Thank you. You guys should have gone east. The line was much shorter going east. And those poor volunteers, they were just shivering. Any other announcements? I've just got a few, if you don't mind. First, I wanted to let you know that I joined a call yesterday with other heads of council, with Premier Ford, Deputy Premier Elliott, Solicitor General and Minister Clark, and General Hillier to get an update on vaccine rollout. They're looking at it. Really, there was nothing new that you wouldn't have already heard on the news about the rollout, and the most vulnerable being the healthcare workers and so on. And the problem they have with the Pfizer vaccine of actually moving it once it's on the ground, but they're getting some Moderna. Anyway, the other vaccine, they're getting some of it into, and it's more mobile and they can move it around. The one thing that General Hillier said that really resonated with me was that although he's so totally focused on the campaign and winning this fight and focused on this battle, he said there's going to be mistakes. They're going to make mistakes, and they've never done this before, and that the best thing to do is just, when a mistake is made, learn from it and move on, and don't do the whole. Keep in mind, he's talking to 444 mayors. Like, don't start pointing fingers and saying this is wrong, that's wrong. Just everybody, as long we need to all be in this together to get through this next phase and get this rollout done. I enjoyed his frankness, and I enjoyed his confidence, how much we were going to get done before Q2 of 2021. I also had the honor to be part of a panel with the Lieutenant Governor, and it was moderated by Lisa Laflamme from CTV News. It was the 50th anniversary of the Royal Commission on the Status of Women. And these incredible women, one of them was the secretary that actually wrote the first draft of the Status of Women Royal Commission. And it was so interesting to hear their stories and things that I'd never thought of before. Like, I was alive when, in order for a woman to get a passport, she had to get her husband to make a permission signature in order for a woman to get a passport, or to borrow money. So we have come a long way, not nearly far enough according to these ladies, but but we have come a far way. It was a great way to spend some time. I look forward to driving around from the 11th to the 18th to see all the wonderful decorated homes in Innisfil. And I very much enjoyed being with Wyatt and Councillor Nicol to do a virtual tree lighting in Cookstown for Light Up Night. I got a sneak peek in the back of a secret location where Christmas for Kids is doing all their great work this year, and they're using a town facility, which they appreciate so very, very much. And to see all the workers in there, and there was a bunch of kids from the high school in there helping, and it's just wonderful. And it just amazes me, all of the people who are so selfless in this town and look out for each other. So since this is our last meeting, I just wanted to say that it's been quite a year, and you've heard me so many times, many times, giving a well-deserved praise to our staff for all their extra efforts through this year and adapting so seamlessly and cooperating across our One Town, One Team to help those service areas that were hardest hit during the pandemic and helping our residents most in need. Having said that, it occurred to me that I have been remiss in not expressing my appreciation to council. You too have had to learn to adapt, have stepped up to the workload far greater than other years. Normally, we would have taken a summer break, which we did not do this year. And with residents under great stress, I know that the number of calls that you've been dealing with, including weekends and evenings, have also increased substantively. So I just want to take a moment to say a special and well overdue thank you to each and every one of my council colleagues for your perseverance, professionalism, and leadership, providing that steady hand on the wheel for both our residents and our staff. And it is my honor to serve with each and every one of you. So my wish for you this Christmas is to have a great long break, to relax, to be with the family you can be with, and to have a really nice R&R over Christmas, because you all deserve it so much. And we're not through this yet, and we're going to have to hit the ground running in January. So enjoy. Our next regular council meeting is not till January the 13th. And unless the sky is falling, I promise you I won't call a special council meeting. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all the best to all of you. Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of council when we thank you for your leadership over this past year. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rayner.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. Just a couple closing words, if I could, as well. Like some of you, I've been strangely attracted to the updates of the, I'm probably not saying it right, but the Vendée Globe sailboat race. I don't know if you've been watching this, that's underway right now. If you don't know, the Vendée Globe is a non-stop solo race around the world covering 44,000 kilometers in scary fast sailboats. You can't get any help if you're in the race. You can't step onto land. You can't even have a supply ship come to your ship and give you more tools or food. It's over 100 days of probably the most grueling and courageous human endeavor ever. And it's underway right now. And because of the modern technology, you can watch videos, you can see the videos and the photos online. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And in some ways, I think this elite race reminds me of what you have all done in your own ways over the last year with these unprecedented challenges. You've had to suspend hugging so many of your friends and family. You've had to rethink what survival means, and you've hopefully found, new beauty in the smallest and tiniest of things that life offers us. As I reflect on this year's global crisis, I couldn't be prouder of the council that I serve and the staff that work with me each and every day to manage each and every one of these challenges that have been thrown our way over the last year. To my staff and to council, your resiliency, your stamina, your willingness to pivot, to be redeployed, and most of all, to dig deeply into the community's needs at this really challenging time and to work tirelessly to improve our residents' lives is frankly damn impressive. I thank you so much for everything that you've done. I know that you have thankless jobs. Most of your inbox is filled with not people praising you, but complaints that in most cases you have nothing to do with at all. And it certainly isn't your fault. But you do it with grace and humility, and you impress me every day. I do hope that you are able to, as the mayor says, relax and get some downtime this holiday season. I hope it gives you an opportunity to truly disconnect, reflect on your accomplishments over this intense year, and there are many, as the mayor noted at the beginning, and re-energize yourselves for what lies ahead. A very happy holidays to all of you, to all of staff, and to the community. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Jason. And any staff who'd like to, if they'd turn their camera on so we could say a final Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to everyone. And I hope staff really gets some downtime too. And please turn off your computer, step away from the keyboard, and enjoy some family time. So Merry Christmas to
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and thank you, everyone.
This is my date for Christmas.
Looks just like you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Wyatt. Merry Christmas.
Wyatt.
Merry Christmas, Wyatt.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, bud.
I just thought of something. We didn't adjourn.
No, we didn't. That's why we're still here.
I've canceled the stream, so sorry.
It's okay. I almost pushed leave meeting, and then I thought, wait a second, I'd have to call a special meeting so we could adjourn.
Oh, that'd make a lot of Grinches.
Okay,
we do have quorum.
We still have quorum. So a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw. Councillor Van Berkel, Councillor Payne, and move for adjournment. That would be Councillor Wyatt and Councillor Fowler, or Councillor Nicol.
Sorry, Worship, just procedurally, we didn't vote on the last one to confirm.
Oh, all in favor. Vote Wyatt, put your hand up. There you go. That's it.
You're standing in
Okay.
for somebody else. There we go.
And now we've got Councillor Wyatt, Nicol, and Councillor Fowler who are moving for adjournment.
We're all in favor.
And we're all in favor. Sorry about
Right.
that, guys. I got all choked up in the announcements.
Okay.
I want to ask you one thing. Do you know where I can get some dogs from the police department? They're out.
I know.
Little
They're
stuffed
going to be out.
toys.
They're going to be out till next year. I've already
Sorry.
inquired.
I went
Bill?
down there 2 weeks ago and they were out.
My fault. I pre-announced and I shouldn't have. But if somebody's like desperate, they need one for Christmas Day, I would give
4.
one.
No.
Sorry, I'm sorry. That was my fault. I was premature with my announcement that they were available. Sorry about that.
I just
Yeah, they
wanted
were-
one for me. I want it as my puppy. It's the only puppy I can have.
I needed 4 for my grandchildren for stocking stuffers.
Oh my dear Lord.
Sorry, guys. I apologize. That's my fault. If I had 4, I'd give them to you. I've got 3. You could have 3, but I don't have 4.
No, I needed 4. Nothing.
Okay. See you next next Wednesday.
Yep.
Tuesday.
next
I'll
Wednesday.
see you guys Tuesday at the tree lighting.
Yeah, right.
The park. The